Greetings and salutations. I am Richie Moon. Welcome to the Richie Moon Show. This is another Spartacus House of Ashur podcast. Episode 5. This is the epitome of what this series is about. It's been stellar the entire time, but this particular episode, they just stepped it up another level as expected. Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. Episode 5 is called Goddess of Death. Episode 5 opens up with Ashur's statue being roughly tossed away by Cornelius and Caesar, who now seek to claim this house as their own. Noble wife not need trouble herself for such base matter of the household, says Ashur. And Ashur and Caesar move to much needed conversation where Julius Caesar, well, this will happen several times throughout the episode. Caesar lets it know that him and Ashur are not on equal footing by any means, and that Ashur was also expecting the presence of Crassus. Caesar let him know that the attack by the Cilicians was actually prompted by himself and Crassus' hand. And this is a classic Crassus move. Problem, reaction, solution. He takes advantage of the problem, he gauges the reaction, then he comes in with the solution for the problem that he has initially created. This is all done with the purpose to move Gabinius to side with Crassus. Gabinius must be swayed in opposition of Pompey, says Caesar orders Ashur to set meeting with Gabinius to break much needed words. And it was interesting. You can see Ashur almost falling into place because he says, "Your will, my hands." It's almost as if he's falling right back into place. Chorus addresses the man as Cornelia gazes upon them from the balcony. Tarchon is paired with vaunted father Celdus. Aratoan and Iphias found placement in the games, and Aquilia is to be presented as the house champion, as the champion of the House of Ashur. Finds himself also disappointed that Crassus is absent, as Caesar, Crassus, and as Caesar, Gabinius, and Ashur break words at Gabinius' place. And Caesar says, we tend to span the chasm between himself and noble senator, because Gabinius' allegiance lies with Pompey. So Caesar suggests that the games, the Ludi Apollinaris, be held by Gabinius and Caesar. So that way it could show Pompey that Gabinius has aligned himself with Crassus. But this is not just to align himself, this is to bring peace. There's a lot of unrest in Rome right now. So they want to bring peace. And also in the act of Gabinius doing the games with them, he also secures the primus for the House of Ashur. And also there is a party, the Kini at Liberia, the eve before the games, and Caesar maneuvers for that event to happen at the House of Ashur, which he now calls home, which Gabinius was actually going to have at his house, but he maneuvered to his liking, moving like a true Roman. Achillia's training seems to be finally paying off as she is going against Del Torre, Celdus, and Tarchon, and she's holding her own. Ashur tells the men of the primus that they finally secured the primus. Tarchon, and after that, they break midday meal. And Tarchon, he shows support for Aquilia. He asks the classic question, what lies beneath your feet? And of course, some of them said opportunity, gold, but then they stood up and said sacred ground, watered with tears of blood. And they all gave their bread in support of Aquilia. And Iphias asked him, "What, have you lost mind? Why would you do a supporter?" He said, "I want our champion to win because 1, that elevates the house, and 2, I want to be the one to have the sword to put in her back so I can then be champion." So, there's double intention with them. Cornelia and Messia find themselves entangled in Ashur's quarters, and Ashur did not take a liking to it. And Cornelia voiced that she needs her filling, she needs her appetites, desires, and filled. And Caesar will also have his desired. And Ashur goes on to say to Caesar, I'm the patron of this house, and I should be respected as equal footing as Caesar. And Caesar backhands Ashur, stomps him out, rips Hilarious' clothes off, and tells Ashur, "Know your place, Syrian. When I enter a room, you shall hail me not as imagined equal, but as God upon mount." So again, he's letting him know, you are not on my level in any way. We are not equals. I am Crassus's word and will. And he stomps him out, and he has sex with Hilaria right in front of him. So he imposes his will. And this is something that Caesar is known to do historically. He'll do this right in front of you, or he'll have sex with your wife, and he'll let you know that he's had sex with your wife. Another interesting tidbit about this is his wife Cornelia actually has more money than him. She's actually more popular than him. But again, like Crassus sees, everybody sees the potential in Caesar. This is the Caesar before everybody knows Caesar as history portrays him, but this is the Caesar before the man that history will tell. This is a young Julius Caesar. So he has the name, the Julian clan, which goes back to Romulus, the founders of Rome, but he does not have the money and the riches to back that. That's why he's aligning himself with Crassus. And Cornelia also knows that because her name and her reputation, her family is right there with Caesar's, but she knows aligning herself with Caesar's would amass more wealth, more power in Rome. So at the party before, at the Kenya Venera, Hilaria voices concern over Caesar's behavior. And at this point, you can, even though Ashur is physically bruised, you can see that Ashur's ego is probably more bruised than his physical wounds. Cornelia and Consudia verbally lash Ashur at every turn that they can get, but Viridia brightens, dark in mood. Hilaria contends to command Messia as she makes obvious observation with blooming sparks between Viridia and Ashur. Caesar is cold-blooded. Caesar apologizes to the man's wife who was taken by the Cilician cutthroats. He seizes rightful laurels from Ashur as being orator beneath his own house and even dubbing it the House of Caesar. This will be the first night that anybody is going to see Achillia. Now, at this time, a woman being presented in the arena, most people thought that this was a jest. So when Achillia, the goddess of death, was presented, there was an awkward silence. There was snickers. People thought it was jest. After that, there was a heated conversation between Gabinius and Ashur because he's pressed, like, you didn't tell me that this was going to be a woman. Like I said, people thought this was a jest. People are laughing. And he was pissed off. A heated but vital conversation between Gabinius and Ashur revealed hands once held closely to chest. Ashur questions why he was held in confidence. And then Gabinius responds, "You divine test upon you." And so Gabinius told Ashur some information, seeing if Ashur was going to run and tell Crassus, and he didn't. He held it close to hands, and he also didn't tell Caesar because he didn't find that information prudent. Gabinius says, "You're playing a dangerous game, Syrian," and in the act, because at the end, even though all these games are being played, the peace between Crassus and Pompey is crucial for the stability of Rome. Nobody wants civil war, no matter which side you take, because everybody suffers if they go to civil war. So, Ashur is like, and in the act, help the men bend broken peace between Pompey and Crassus while also seeking his house beyond imagined station. The two not need stand in conflict. Spoken like a true Roman, says Gabinius. And they move towards a common goal. And they move towards a common goal. Ashur takes a breath because he's swimming in deep waters, but serving under Batiatus and being well versed and being with Crassus, and he knows how to swim in these waters. Operator finally finds Crassus, and he presses him for failing to mention that the champion of the House of Ashur was a woman. Again, Romans at this time, if you don't know, they look at women as second-class citizens, especially in the arena. So of course, as an operator, you're still a rival to our house. This stands true, but operator would like to know where they stand absent houses. They find themselves in private quarters and embracing, but not that private because Proculus' eyes falls upon them. Ashur presses Proculus on the attack of Chorus, and Proculus promised if it was his hands that moved against Chorus in the house of Ashur, then it will be his hand that held the blade. And Ashur, and Nycteris is such a good actor. Ooh, I long for the day. Operator, inflamed with the Aedil's wife being taken in the attack by the Cilicians. He was inflamed and he pressed Caesar about it. He said, I thought nobody of note would get taken to the afterlife. And Caesar says, yeah, anybody of note. He didn't deem her of note. And we find out that Apater was on this, and he was actually paid by Caesar, and that's why he enticed Cornelius. That's why he enticed Custodia with the Egyptian garbs to bring her to the market at the same time. And that is why Ashur was summoned to the market at the same time to get Crassus things, all these things converging. This is all just a big setup. And Apater continues to press this, and he says, we all know that great Caesar will one day rival the gods, but he will get there through plummet and shit. And Caesar responds, too bad you will not be one of my worshipers, or too bad you will just not be of this world. So Apater might not be around the next couple of episodes. Nobody is safe in the world of Spartacus. Nobody is safe. Anybody can die. Tarchon cleverly whisked away his girl from the Roman troll for much needed a release of tension. Viridian and Ashur find each other once again, and they share a moment. Hilaria, overlooking them, comments on the upcoming games. Seldus and Tarchon finally put past it aside and become one as they are fighting together in the arena. Achelia seeks counsel from Seldus, and she is in his cell, because this is her first time going to the arena. Seldus has been in the arena several times. She says, if I am to face death at the break of day, then I would embrace life this night. And her and Seldus embrace and indulge in desires. Vaunted father and eager son claim victory in the arena. Achelia, now expecting to face the brother Ferox, they do a switcheroo. Gabinius probably feels like the rug was taken from under his feet because it was a woman. So now, instead of facing the brothers Ferox, Achelia is now going to face his Proclus, his champion. But she sees his fucking victory and sends him to the afterlife. And in the fight, she gets a really bad cut in her hand, and she loses a lot of blood, and she passes out. And that's how this episode ends. This, again, there's something about episode 5. If you go back to Vengeance episode 5, when they take down the arena, they have like these mid-season finales in the middle of the series, and obviously it's just up from here. The tensions are going to go up. And during this, we find out that Caesar is actually leaving town. He's going to Sinuesan Valley, but Cornelia is still going to be there. So there's still going to be that tension there. This was another fantastic, stellar episode. All killer, no filler. I love this series because there is no wasted conversation. There's no wasted dialogue. There's no wasted movements. There's no filler. Everything moves the characters forward. Everything moves the plot forward. So this was episode 5, Goddess of Death. In my opinion, this has been the best episode of this series so far. And speaking as a person that has watched the entire Spartacus series several times, this is one of the best episodes. This ranks in one of the top episodes in the Spartacus verse just by itself in total. So I am so excited to see where the series takes us, and I will be here next strong for episode 6 of the House of Ashur. It might be the House of Caesar. Who knows by the time we get to next strong. But peace, love, and light. Like, share, and subscribe. I am Richie Moon, and let the gods be with us for the next episode.